Yes, this is intentional. Welcome to today's Wumble Wednesday. As you can see, I'm not outside. In fact, I'm not even on the screen, as of recording this, it is 11 p.m. at night, and believe it or not, I will not go to record a devlog at that time. So, we're doing a new style right now, at least for today, and we'll see how views bump out. But let's do a little recap of last week. So, last week was pretty in the game engine trenches, and was still working on just getting everything set up as a whole, as well as what I was presenting was primarily conceptual, and nothing really screen-wise was getting shown. Yeah. I didn't show this during the last Wumble Wednesday, but I did have something working, but it was just a button that existed in the space, and it wasn't really much to show off. And there was some connection between true words, and definitions, but again, it wasn't visible whatsoever, especially not in the devlog. So when it came to this week, the goals were just to have more stuff on the front end, as well as actually have an evaluator. As you can see, I'm also going to be abusing transitions during this entire Wumble devlog, so let's continue on. To say the least, it was a pretty tragic sort of first devlog to be yeah, hey, this is the game, let me ramble about the game for 20 minutes. I don't know where it is, as in it's still not done, not by a long shot. There's still barely anything connected, so that brings us to this week. I put myself back in dev jail, and you know what? It worked. It really did work, but it was tiring, to say the least. Yeah, so we have two parts, so I sort of focused on. I sort of split this up into the front end and the back end. On the front end, we have a huge canvas size increase. One sort of feedback I got when I was doing some playtesting between some friends, as well as just when testing on my own, the very first daily Wumble word drops, the canvas was really small, so if you wanted to play any words, you'd only really have 10 easily accessible within your sort of immediate viewing area. So I really just wanted to increase that sort of space. So in order to do that, I actually increased the entire canvas as a whole. That way I can sort of fit more text, which means I can fit more words onto the game. Oh yeah, integration of just scenes and sort of screens in the sort of game loop. We're gonna see this more in a second once I sort of actually pull the project, but I have my game sort of set up not only in sort of separate scenes, but in the future we're gonna sort of expand on screens in the sense where it's okay, on one scene there's essentially sort of 3 sub-screens you can sort of be at. There's a main one, and there's sort of 2 info ones that you can sort of swipe left and right to go to. Words actually existing in a battle state and not just a word that says Fox in the middle, and then I'm okay, yeah, words are connected through prefabs. It's much more advanced now, to say the least. Also, finally, tooltips about words. It's really easy for me to find in code where there is data on a sort of certain word, but actually having that visible to players is pretty important. I need to blurb that out. Cool. Anyways, backend. Custom evaluators for words are actually finally up. It's not a lot, which I'll get into later. Also, I intentionally made it slower. This is solely for game feel, and I'll expand on how I'll be sort of changing that in the future. And I can also sort of show off what a really fast evaluator looks like. Fun fact, it isn't as appealing to look at, but I'll go into reasons later. New word status, or I don't know why I put status. I set up new word structs to actually hold data. I think the 2 I mentioned here are complete word data and words eval. Basically, the way complete word data works for those interested is I have that be sort of the main parent structure that holds all the sort of children structs, being my word data, true word data, and a sort of vector of any definitions that the true word has. And not just the enums, but specifically the data associated with each definition. So to really expand on that. and words eval is just what I'm using for evaluation. Also, connection to the actual Turbo server. What this means is that there's actually connection to the Turbo server online, and while it's not saving anything persistently, there is a connection, to say the least, which is a huge advancement, again, from last week being, hey, we're still barely loading stuff in. But, yeah. With that being said, you might be asking, hey, that's a lot of words. Can we see the project, though? Well, if you watch my daily shorts for the daily Wumble word drops, you have. But let me actually sort of expand on the game as a whole. So I'm going to put this in full screen proper. I'm going to hit Control-R to reload. So when you start the game, this is the sort of dev button, but you're going to see this main screen. These two buttons do not do anything right now, so I'm going to solely focus attention on the play button. I'm going to hit play, and while there isn't much here, I can sort of walk through what to expect moving forward, especially for next week. Actually, no, I won't do that. I'll just play the game. So this is a sort of deckless screen, and then we're just going to hit ready to start because there's sort of no decks to choose from. Here we're at a ready scene, and we're just going to say it's go time, and then we're going to enter a basic battle. This basic battle will sort of pull words from our sort of deck list. So for instance, you can see some of these are actually pretty familiar for those who watch the daily Word Wumble drop series, as these are a lot of just user submissions. All in a row, to be honest. When I do this sort of like video series for daily Wumble word drop, I cut out a lot of extras in order to immediately find the words I need to sort of show off. But you know what? For those interested, I'll repeat this back later. I'm making a separate sort of word system video that's like 20 minutes already. And it's more me rambling and sort of walking through it. But for those interested, it is there. So feel free to check it out. With that being said, this is what most of my work has sort of been put into when it comes to this week. So again, buttons are buttons. Buttons have words. But if you hover over them, oh my god, that's something I'll need to tinker with later. Sorry, this was unexpected behavior, to say the least. Normally when you... Wait, does it do that? No, okay. Okay, that's a fix I need to do. Okay. So when you normally hold a button down, you will see this sort of like info. I'm gonna pull up a different example. So for instance, goober, it has a word, a different true word, a true word that is different than the word being held, as well as two definitions. Yeah. So there are two definitions, all that jazz. I'm gonna do this example, sort of show you why there's a huge error with the evaluation system. Right now, all the evaluator is checking, it is getting the best possible value out of all the definitions, and not really considering any other factors. So if I were to just play goober as a noun, I'm gonna get 10 points for the word goober, 6 points for the goober true word, and then I'm gonna get 7 more because the definition saying a foolish person is the highest possible value to get out of this. Therefore, that is the value I will get out of this. So 10 plus 6 plus 7 is 23. If I hit post, it's going to go through that, and I'm pretty sure that's 23. If not, I can't do math. But yeah, that's generally how the evaluator works. You put together your sort of best series of words, post it, and then it's going to sort of calculate out of all the possible options what is the best option, and then go from there. Then after a battle, if you won, great. You're immediately getting it taken back to the waiting scene, and we're going to go back from there. So, yeah. That is how the game generally functions right now. And what I will show on screen, I don't know how much I can show on the actual OS homepage, due to keys being shown, I think. I think that's how it works. I'm not going to double sweat over it. But every time a player hits the post button after the sort of best score is sort of found, That info about the best score is then sent up to the server as, at the moment, just a log stating, yeah, hey, this player got this many points. But the big thing is that there is a server connection, so we can run funny programs. But, yeah. That's what the project is right now. So, let me finish this devlog out. Moving forward, when it comes to the front end, I really want to polish it up as a whole. What this looks like is just expanding on screens and scenes. So actually, I can pull the game back up because I do want to show this off. So again, here it's meant to be a deck list page. It is a deck list page, it's just there's nothing on it. There's no way to sort of choose between any sort of deck list. So actually having functionality to hit a button and then be like, hey, actually, I want to update the player data so that because I hit the icon with the bird, I want the bird deck. Or because I hit the icon with the saxophone, I want the music deck. And you'll get words associated with that sort of icon, and you'll go from there. And that would just be the deck list scene. You only get to open the deck list scene once you hit play, but after that it doesn't sort of re-enter the main game loop. The main three main scenes inside the main game loop are a wait scene, in which you can sort of like look at your stats, look at stuff other people have been posting. The battle scene, which is where everything sort of gets evaluated, and that's how you progress. And the shop scene, I call it the shop scene, but it really is just an alternate posting scene, because in the battles you're just posting lines of dialogue, poems, creative lines, what the gizmos, the gadgets. But in the shop scene, it's more like you're posting pictures. These are not user sort of tossed in pictures. Rather, these are pictures that exist within the game that act as perks. So, for instance, I mentioned this in a prior devlog, but if you post a picture of a dog, you can probably get a boost to any sort of dog-related cards. Or, sorry, not cards, words, but that's generally how the loop would sort of be established. But because deck list is, hey, you're choosing a deck to start with, you don't get to sort of see that scene once you enter the main like game loop as a whole. But that's what's really supposed to be shown here. When it comes to this is the wait scene. This is where we can be seeing some sort of back-end connectivity, where you can see live posts about what was like just played. I say live, but when you load in this scene, it's going to load in from the time of you loading in the most recent posts, and then sort of throw them on the homepage. Yeah. I will most likely add a reload button so that you can sort of refresh, but at the moment it's just the current plan is just when you load in, it'll load the data and it won't continuously reload for the sake of time, and also just not to overload a server with requests. Yeah, on top of this, you would be able to sort of view info about your profile. You'd also be able to see this within the wait scene, which we're currently in right now, the battle scene if you were to swipe right, and also the shop scene if you want to swipe right. I say screens because this is the canvas as it's meant to easily be played on a mobile device. But the current plan as well is to have not three, this is the second one, a screen right here and a screen right here. And there's going to be a camera controller system that if a player was to swipe right, or in keyboard sense, if they were to hit A or D, going left or right, they would swap to that sort of associated page. Info would not get deloaded, it's just moving the camera to and forth, so nothing too crazy. That way I'm able to make sure that players have any info about their own sort of self easily accessible, even if it's not immediately viewable on the same page. So this is the wait scene, and there would be a quote-unquote live feed over here so you can see what other people are playing. This would be a sort of deck page to be like, okay, what is the run looking like? And then on the right would be player info. Here we enter the battle scene, and right would still be player info. And here's where actually, I don't know if I've talked about it yet, but this entire system is intentionally slower. If I'm going to intentionally overload this with every single word I have. Damn, that was still fast. Okay. Well, I do want to show it off if my computer will allow. I do think I show this. Oh, that is my user ID. Oh, I'm quite silly and just flashing that around everywhere. Okay. So when we go to my word evaluator component, I'm gonna go down here. I'm hard coding in a amount of frames that players must wait in order for them to sort of like go to the sort of next step of evaluation. So every few frames, one evaluation is happening, and an evaluation is defined as just checking the next possible definition to see if it's like the max or not. So yeah, so for instance, if a word has one definition, all words will at least have one definition. A true word specifically will always have one definition. If the code is like, okay, we're going to go to the next definition that this word has, but there's only one definition, it'll just sort of go back up and immediately check the next word of the prior definition, or the prior word. And if that doesn't exist, it's going to go back up. But if a word, you're sort of looking, and you're like, okay, wait, here's a definition we have not checked yet, we are going to go check that. And then it's going to go down and continue going down from there. For the sake of game feel, I've set the sort of amount of frames they need to wait till the next evaluation, till 3. Well, let's just change this to 10 for the time being. I'm going to save it. And then Wumble is going to take in that save like a champ. And what that looks like is it's going to take a lot less time to do one evaluation. And that's going to be really, not taxing, it's just going to be really frustrating as a player to go through, because it's just like, okay, I just want to do my next turn. Why can't I do my next turn? Alternatively, if I were to say, hey, you can evaluate every frame, I'm going to wait till that loads. Cargo check? Okay, we're good. If we're going to evaluate every frame, a player does not have time to actually process the data that is getting chucked at them. So so when I've been testing, I found that 3, honestly 5 is a good number as well, but nothing around 10. As when you get to sort of like larger words, or at least larger sentences, that evaluation can just be really tedious to look at because of just how slow it can be. So yeah, that's evaluation, that's the battle scene. When it comes to the battle scene, I'll, again, sort of like give the potential screens. If you were to swipe right, there would be player data, and if you swipe left, what I'm thinking about putting here is showing you what words you have in your deck, what is in discard, and go from there. So yeah, I'm going to just throw everything in here to get the score of 100. Also, the score to meet is always 100 right now. That's going to get fixed in the future. Finally, we are jumping back from the battle scene immediately to the wait scene. In theory, there's a third screen that I've not yet implemented, called the shop screen. And as mentioned previously, this is just where players would sort of buy or equip. No, not even equip. It's just posting new things. So, yeah. Y'all saw that slideshow, but we're going through this the slow way. So yeah, also just speeding eval over time, and also making sprites for posts and icons. So on top of the daily Wumble word drops, you might see me post sprites. These are just random pictures that you could either use as a player profile for posting, as one of those sort of perk options, as well as icons just to navigate the UI. All right, on the back end. I'm looking to handle more stuff, more data server side. As mentioned previously, stuff is actually getting sent to the server, which I'm really glad is finally happening, so huzzah. But that's great and all, but I need to make sure that data is stored over time, because it's like, hey, I want to make sure that a player can get them like 50 most recent posts. That then means I need to make sure that that data is getting stored rather than immediately getting logged and then not saved whatsoever. Sorry, on top of this, I'm also looking to create a new struct to hold the player info. This is outside of the player data I have in the local system. This is just an easy way to toss individualized data back and forth. In the Turbo OS system as a whole, I can technically toss in player keys. So when a player plays the Turbo game, they have a unique Turbo ID when they sort of like play the game. I don't think that's fun to look at, believe it or not. Looking at a string of 25 random letters and numbers just is not appealing. So what I plan to have is players can construct their username by choosing any 3 names in the game. By choosing any 3 words in the game and sort of slamming them together. So you can be the, you can be Boot Hill, the Goober. I don't know, you can do whatever you want. On top of this, there will be a profile picture system. What I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a profile picture enum. And then just the picture is saved client side, so whenever a player has a sort of, they can choose from the 10 pre-made sort of pictures, they see that on their end, but internally that's also sort of saved as a enum. So when a surfer is taking in that info and being like, hey, what profile picture out of the 10 made ones for the game, which one are they using? It'll just take in the enum rather than a picture to save data easily over a server. If, again, players aren't tossing in images, they will just have ones to select from. Finally, perks need to actually be stored within the database, so there will most likely be a perk enum just to easily go through it. So yeah, that's the plan moving forward. One thing I do want to talk about that I don't think I've talked about at all, really, is more about the evaluation system as well. So all the system is really doing is, again, it's only getting the points. This might not come next week, solely due to the fact that my priority is just to round out the game loop more, and while it's a core feature, I would say using the word type system and evaluating like evaluations is not my utmost priority, because the way the evaluation system is going to work is this left sort of column is going to be views, and this rightmost column is sort of going to be general engagement. A way a player can increase their views is by using unique words, and then they sort of like, in theory, this is how it's getting interpreted sort of story-wise, by putting in all these words, especially ones that are uncommon. So for instance, I want to say the has like a score of 1. Yeah, and Goober has a score of 10. Those are unique words. Inherently every word is unique, but some are more unique, and they sort of like make the audience in the game really, it makes it easier for them to find your content. What this will also be expanded into is when you have perks. Let's say random idea. Let's say there's a Honkai Star Rail perk. Anything that is Honkai Star Rail related. So for instance, if I were to put Boot Hill in here, because I have a Honkai Star Rail perk sort of attached to my player profile, it recognizes that I have a Boot Hill sort of noun in here. I would get a immediate boost to my views on top of everything that is already normally getting evaluated. So views really is just play unique words, and perks will boost those unique words if they fall within that perk. On the other hand, this is the engagement column. What I've defined that as is if you use words correctly, people will be like, oh, wait, that's kind of a bar. Oh, or, oh, that kind of makes sense. The second layer is the syllable system, where it's actually going to be checking, hey, in this line, how many syllables are you using? Are you using 1? Are you using 3? Are you using 5? And there would be equivalent to Balatro. It's like hands, but syllable line usage. Normally, what is sort of getting used now is it's pretty free form. It will just evaluate as itself. But in order to incorporate this sort of line syllable system, I need to create a custom word that isn't a word. It is like a comma or it is a enter space, and it'll go from there. That all being said, that's the step 2. So step 1 really is just, hey, are the words you're putting together, do they make sense in the pattern they're in? And if they do, you're going to get a sort of boost to your engagement because people are going to realize, hey, this makes sense, I vibe with it. Step 2 is, what creative patterns are you using? The immediate one is syllables, and we'll go from there. And then the third is perks. Perks that boost the creative pattern will look for, hey, are you using repetition? Is there a common sort of like P sound? It's like popping berries. No. Popping, plowing. I don't think I'm gonna go with the P system, but like, yeah, it's that sort of the idea, where it's looking for just creative patterns, and that would be the perks, that would be associated with engagement, because you're not only using unique words, but you're using words in unique ways. So that's generally how the system works. On one end, it's, hey, are your words unique? And are there groups or are there sort of series that use those unique words? Or the other half is, are you using the words in unique ways, creative patterns? Go from there. At the lowest level, it's going to be, do words make sense in the pattern they're in? The next level is, hey, 575, 5775. Go from there. With that being said, we're already at 25 plus minutes, and I thought this was going to be a shorter one, but clearly me playing the game and rambling a bit more makes it a bit longer. So for those of you who have stayed this long, thank you. Looking forward to seeing you guys play this project when it's rounded out more, so stay tuned.